All right, thrilled right now to be joined by a guy that I grew up as a fan of before I started even covering the Kings. And we're going to talk a few things here, but I want to start off by welcoming Hall of Famer Mitch Richmond, one of the two faces of the franchise for the Sacramento Kings, the other one being Chris Webber. And ironically, they were traded for one another. Mitch, thank you so much for coming on. How are you?
Thanks for having me. It's good. Good to be here.
How is it for you going through, kind of back watching Kings basketball again, and now you're kind of in the position that I'm in a lot and having to talk about these players and these games?
Oh, I'm sorry. The
you're
phone.
fine.
I need to. Okay, say that again. Let's do it one more time.
Yeah, no problem at all. No problem at all.
Right.
How is it for you just, now being kind of thrown back into the mix of watching Kings basketball again and having to do it from an analytical standpoint? What's it like being in studio with a guy I used to work with Jim Kozimor?
It's exciting. I mean, anytime you can stay around the game. I enjoy watching the game, even though I haven't played it in years, as far as professionally. But you still kind of enjoy watching the new players. Enjoy watching the stories. Enjoy the guys that continue to get better, and just enjoy these guys competing.
Has it been fun? Was it an easy transition, you coming over as from a star player to a guy who's been in coaching the past few years, and then to put the analyst hat on? Was it an easy transition to make?
Well, I think you got to get back used to being comfortable in the studio, and I think early on I was dealing with a lot of stuff, the passing of my son, so I just really was trying to you got to get yourself back in the mindset. If anything, just like anything, if you you got to put your mind to it, get yourself back in that form. And I thought I was getting my groove back, and then this happened. So just got to continue to keep working on your craft. And but it's basketball. It's something that I really love to talk about. It's something that grew me up. I'm playing it on and off the court. I grew up as a person having basketball in my life.
It was awesome too, because knowing your all the different irons that you had interest in, be it football initially, and then at basketball, and then I know you were an amazing bowler and video game player. I mean, you were kind of like the Renaissance man. You had a lot of interest.
Well, okay, all right. That's the fun part of it. I got other things that I do too, but no, that's pretty cool. No, it's all about enjoyment, man. Enjoying life. I think we always try to attach ourselves to something that we can pretty much get our mind at ease and free our mind a little bit. Sometimes bowling does that for me. Video games just do it all the time for me. And also playing the game. You kind of get yourself in just a zone where you could just kind of zone out and just focus on really what you're trying to do.
Yeah, it's funny that you, in talking about that, I was reflecting back just a few minutes ago with Lionel Simmons, and the main reason that I wanted to have you on is we were, remembering you and I had a mutual friend in Marty McNeal who we lost this past week, and in talking to Lionel, he was talking about the video games and stuff that he used to do with Marty and how competitive he was, and I was like, yeah, he might have been responsible for the video game injury that Lionel had.
Yeah, I don't know about that injury. I remember that thumb injury. I think I wasn't even on the team when I heard that one. That was funny. But yeah, no question about it. Like Marty was a big part of our lives when we were in Sacramento. The guy was the one thing about it. We always had disagreements, but I think it was great to have those confrontation and arguments and still be friends and really try to work out through some of the things that we didn't understand about each other. I think he was always fair on both sides. If he felt like I wasn't truthful, he'll ask me. And if I felt like he wasn't truthful, I asked him. And so I think it was a great relationship. And actually, yeah, we used to play video games. Even when I left Sacramento, we would play online when they started playing online. Marty was a pretty good football player as far as the Madden game. So we had a few guys that would play online, and Marty was one of them.
Oh, that's awesome. I know that it was the Giants or the Jets for him. I can't imagine him picking any other team.
That's so true. That's so true. and he lost all the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say he'd go down with his team. That's for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, when you hear the name Marty McNeal, I mean, it's just what's the
yeah.
one thing that just pops up into your mind?
Oh man, I mean, we had some good times, man, on the road. I can remember Marty would always pick us up, and he would say, "Hey man, yeah, I'm going to this. Let's go to this place sometimes to go to have dinner or something like that." And he would always get lost all the time. Always said, "Man, there used to be a road right here. Man, man, they changed that road. Man, I gotta go." He would always get lost, and we would just be laughing the whole time in the car. Like Marty, man, they changed, brother. Like the roads have changed since you rode these roads, but he would always make us laugh all the time.
Now, to know him, I didn't start covering the team until '01, so I grew up, rooting for the Kings, born in Sacramento, and you had him as a young NBA writer, even
Yeah.
though he came over from Dallas. Knowing him even up to recent years, did he change much? Was he the same Marty McNeal he was in the '90s as he was the one that I knew late in his life?
Always the same, Marty. Oh, actually, I talked to him probably about 2 weeks ago, and I knew he was struggling at times, but he still was the energetic Marty, like nothing was going on. I heard from Travis that Marty was having some difficulties, but when I talked to him, and we would always talk, each other. He would always call me. We would always talk. And then I just reached out to him, and he was always just a funny Marty, like, "Hey man, I'm all right. I'm good. I'm gonna beat this thing." And he was just always the energetic, saying that he was gonna be okay.
Yeah, yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that too. It was
Hmm.
in talking to so many of these guys, I knew how much you meant to him and that relationship
Hmm.
that you had. But the one I got to witness all the time was him and Mike Bibby or him and Bobby Jackson just
Yeah.
constantly talking trash. And
Right.
knowing you the way I do, and I know I haven't been around you so much, but as a player, I don't remember you
Mhm.
being that trash talking force on at least on the court, but at least I don't know,
uh,
maybe off the court,
yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, I don't think it was my expertise on the court. I was always try to be focused at the task, and I wasn't really good at trash talking when I was in focus. Like my trash talking was just don't say anything, just go even a little harder. Unless somebody really kind of get into your face, you would say something. But I wasn't the guy to be like, "Hey man, I'm giving drop 40 on you tonight," anything like that, until somebody said anything. And usually no one said anything to me. So I just try to kind of focus on my thing. But off the court, I talked a lot, no question about it. I talked a little trash, no question.
Yeah, and that always comes up in video games, I'm sure. I mean, whether
Yeah.
and the one thing I was talking to Bobby Jackson about, it was like,
Hmm.
for a guy who in Marty who may not have had the talent that you guys had, he at least had the gift of the gab. And I would imagine that,
Right.
you're going up against the likes of Gary Payton every night in, night out. And how would Marty have fared against those guys?
Well, you're talking about somebody who grew up in New York City. So when you grow up in New York City, you just have the gift of gab to really talk trash. He had the gift of gab. It didn't matter who it was. He can talk smack back right back to you, no doubt.
And it's funny too, because there was also we talk about what stands out, the curse words, the trash talk, him being real and brash and bombastic, but there was also we know that soft side of Marty, and I was lucky enough to experience that and what he was able to show me as a veteran in the journalism business. And even though I was in radio at the time and he was a print journalist, he showed me the ropes, and it was a lot like I always remember in seeing it in any industry as a guy just showing a young guy the way, and if that young guy's willing to put the work in. And that certainly, did you notice anything like that with Marty? Any of those kind of softer moments?
Oh no, he definitely had a sophomore moment. I just really felt bad for him when he did work at his craft, and I just didn't thought he would. I didn't think he was treated very well in Sacramento. The time that he was with a struggling team, each and every day bringing stories and bringing stories that people can read in the paper. And I just felt like his time in Sacramento didn't go as well as I thought it should have. And we always talked about that, but he's like, "Hey man, it's all right, man. I just got to keep moving on." And so we had some similarities in that part. How about
Yeah,
that?
no doubt about that, sir. No doubt about
Yeah,
that. That's well,
yeah.
and thinking about him too. Gosh, one of the things I was thinking about was, he took over. He was covering pretty much a losing basketball team, and in talking to Lionel, there's a lot of great memories, even though it was a losing basketball team. But you guys were rewarded
Mm-hmm.
at that post game run, and you guys got to build to something. He
Mm-hmm.
got to share along those experiences, and I know that playoff run he was thrilled with to be able to see that. And I know to this day he would always say that first game back at Arco Arena after the
Mm-hmm.
first game in Seattle, that was the loudest he'd ever heard the building.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal moment, especially all the times, the trials and tribulations up to that point. It was some rough nights. It was some tough mornings. It was some terrible afternoons. But each and every day, we the teams and every guy continue to keep working on their craft. I think we was in the process of the team trying to get better and the organization trying to get better too. At that particular time, both was trying to do it at the same time, and we didn't have I don't think we had the resources to actually, get the team to where we wanted it. And I know one thing, I was looking forward to playing with Peja. We had drafted Peja when I was there, and I was looking forward to playing with him. And then I found out that he wouldn't be coming over. That was tough to swallow, and then have another tough year. So Marty was in the grind with us, man, each and every day, man, on the road. He continued to keep showing up, asking the questions, and so he went on that ride with us. I mean, I know he appreciated it, because that moment at that time in that first game in Sacramento against Seattle, man, that city was rocking. I can remember we beat Seattle in Seattle in game 2, and so when we came back that night, there was so many people from Sacramento at the airport cheering us on like we won the championship, and Marty was right in the middle of that.
Well, that's awesome. I was just talking to Lionel Simmons about it, and he thought that
Mm-hmm.
one of the moments that stood out with Marty was the fact that he was bulking up because he thought he'd have to fight Olden Polynice one day.
Yeah. Him and Polynice had a pretty good relationship. They would always argue. Sometimes we'd have to pull them apart. But he wouldn't back down. He would put his pencil and pad down, like, come on, take his glasses off, whatever, let's do it. We would always go, okay, Marty, all right, calm down. Like, man, I ain't scared of your big boy. He would always say that. So we had some good times.
And I know they were great after the fact.
Really good friends. Yeah,
he'd always call him Opus, and
yeah.
And as someone like myself who really admires Olden Polynice as well, and the relationship, he was phenomenal. Before I let you go, one on the
one more
thing.
But OP was the first guy that called me when he heard about Marty. So me and OP actually we see each other a lot here in LA. And I know OP was a tough cookie there in Sacramento, but he really is a good guy. He just wanted to win, and he wanted to play hard. He wanted everybody to put in the type of effort that he did when he was working on his body and working on his craft.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I was thinking of too, especially when it comes to Marty, they always say that in the NBA the game isn't the same now as it once was, and journalism could be said the same way as well. And I've told everybody I've talked to about Marty, it's like, man, I feel bad that the guys today, especially these current crop of Sacramento Kings, they don't know who Marty McNeal is and didn't have to spend time with him, and that to me that's very unfortunate.
Yeah, man. It's just sad. It was a sad day to lose him. But I know he's in a better place. Didn't want to see him struggle. He was struggling the last 3 or 4 years just with his health. But we're definitely gonna miss him. We appreciate the time that we had with him. We had some wonderful times, and all those memories I'm definitely gonna take and never forget.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And one of the things I wanted to have you on too as well before I let you go was obviously The Last Dance has taken people by storm. It's over now. It's actually having encore presentations on our ABC channels now. And
Mm-hmm.
it's funny, just growing up in Sacramento and localizing it, I can't think of Michael Jordan without thinking you, because of what he said in terms of that famous quote about how he looked at you as the second best two guard in the league behind him. I always wondered what that quote meant to you as a competitor and a Hall of Famer in your own right. When you hear that from him, what does that do to you?
Well, definitely it doesn't. It doesn't make you just sit around on your morals and say, "Hey, man, Michael think I'm the best, and don't keep working." The one thing he gave me that those props is because of the work that I did put in. I felt like I put in my game. I wanted to be the best competitor I possibly can with the skills that I had. And so anytime I went against Mike, it was head on. I mean, I knew that he was one of the best scorers in the game, or the best scorers in the game, but you definitely had to make him work. And so I took on that challenge just like he took on the challenge. And the one thing I appreciated about playing against Mike is because he played on both ends, something that I really tried to do. Play on both ends, try to guard the guy. A lot of people don't guard the guy that's the best player. They try to shy away from it. And I never shied away from that. Michael never shied away from that. And definitely, man, just he was the best basketball player on the court. But you can't call him the best basketball player when you're going up against him. You got to let him know that I'm here to play and I'm here to be physical. I'm here to take on the challenge, and we'll see what the results look like.
Yeah, was he the competition? Was he your toughest competition of anyone you'd go up against? And did it mean more to go up against him?
Of course. I mean, you talk about a guy that played both ends. He just didn't score. A lot of people just, when you look at The Last Dance, it was all his highlights of when he needed to take a big shot or win a big shot. But a couple of times where they showed that his defense, but the guy was relentless on the defensive end. He put time into it. I think early on in his career, I used to try to be physical with him, try to use my physical strength to get him because he was such a quick guard. But he didn't put the time in the weight room, but he was just so quick. And I think over time, when he came back from baseball, he really started, lifting the weights, started doing a lot of stuff, man. And then, he tried to match everybody by posting them up. Then he just became a low post scorer on the block. And so, yeah, I mean, that's just the masteration of his game where he just took the time out to figure out what he needed to do to be the better basketball player. And he did that.
And then you mentioned him being that ultimate competitor, and he's got another one right there in Scottie Pippen, and eventually in Dennis Rodman as well. I can't imagine that was the super team before super teams, really.
Right. Yeah, but I think any time you go and you have to say nobody can guard me, and Mike had that way of thinking. I feel like I had that way of thinking. I might have a bad shooting night, but it wasn't because of you. You know what I mean? So. You have to always take on that, and you just try to take it on, do the best you possibly can, and I think you always rely on your training. You rely on what you've been working on. You rely on your focus and your mental aspect of it. And Michael was the best at doing that, and just tried to match that. And not just Michael, but a lot of players. I think the two guard position back then was such a hard thing to guard because you had Clyde, you had Reggie. All guys was totally different in how you had to guard them, how you had to approach them. So on the defensive end, I think it was a lot of guys kind of you have to zone in and try to stop them. I just felt like none of them other guys could stop me. I know Michael would probably do a better job of stopping me, but I mean that's the mentality that you had to have.
And I can't imagine you were looking at him like, okay, this guy's the greatest, right? I mean, you can't do that as a competitor, right?
No, not at all. I mean, like that makes you, play even harder because they're saying this guy is the greatest. And I think people don't understand. You can look at Michael and you say that 72 team when they won 72 games, each and every night, every team came out and tried to knock them out because they were the better team. So think about Michael being the best player. Every guy tried to knock him out each and every night because he was the best player. So he had to have a mentality to come in each and every night to show you that you're not going to knock me off my throne. So each and every night, it was just a difficult matchup. You had to have that physical mental aspect in your game to kind of get you over the hump.
Did it, because you were that competitor with him, were you allowed to have that type of relationship with him even off the court? Could you have a relationship with him off the court, or did you have to like keep him at arm's length?
I kept him at arm's length. I mean, like what we definitely talked. We had a mutual friend, and he's my son's godfather, and he was Michael's son godfather, and Rod Higgins. And Rod Higgins, we would always be around, definitely, sometimes together, all three of us. But we never let each one get an edge on each other. You know, it's like, you know, even if we would go and play ball, we'd just shoot around, we'd mess around. It was all about, I'm not going to let you know what I do, and you're not going to let me know what you do. But we had a pretty good friendship. Now we talk a lot. We definitely talk a lot. We text each other a lot, and it is what it is. But back then you didn't want nobody to get an edge on each other.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And, you know, and talking to Lionel just a minute as I wrap up here, you know, I know that those teams you played for in Sacramento, for the most part, had losing records and then blossomed into a post game. And then once things had ownership changes, things happened and they started winning and stuff like that. But I wonder how much of that was because of just an overall young team. And I look at the way the Kings are now over the past few years, where they've been predominantly young. I mean, you guys had talent, but a lot of that talent was so young because so many veterans in the league were so far along, like Michael Jordan, Clyde Drexler, things of that nature. How difficult was it to win then as a young team compared to maybe today as a young team?
Yeah, I think people look at that when you tell them that you were actually playing in those early years of Sacramento, that no one else was on the team but Mitch, and that's not true. It's just that we had young players, no question about it. We had talented young players, but just wasn't really ready for the task. At that time, I was going on to my fourth year, and I was supposed to be a veteran. You know what I mean? And we were going to, just like I always say, we was going up against grown men. Our team wasn't prepared and physically ready to take on that challenge. We were talented, but we were just too young. And a lot of discipline. We wasn't disciplined, to tell you the truth. Our team wasn't disciplined because a lot of guys was just coming in the league, didn't know what to expect. But I had already knew, just playing at Golden State, that each and every night was a tough night, and I knew it was going to be difficult just with the young players we had. Now you look at the league, pretty much young team is all over the hub in every city, or every team they have a pretty much young team. So it wasn't that young when I first came in, or the first early years with Sacramento.
So we'd like you at the analyst role. Hopefully we're going to see you do a little bit more than that if the season's able to resume here soon. But I got to think, I mean, have you given up on coaching? Is coaching something still you might want to take a look at?
I've learned in my older age that you don't give up on nothing. You know what I mean? You continue to keep it. Something that you enjoy. There's always different aspects that you can go in to really kind of nourish your mind. And for me, you know, you never turn down anything right now, as far as if it's dealing with something that really brought so much enjoyment to me. Brought a lot of pain, but it also brought a lot of enjoyment. And I'm never turning down anything like that if it's a part about my mind being nourished and being happy, and something that I truly believe that saved my life.
Yeah, and I mentioned the coaching for people who don't know. He was at St. John's under Chris Mullen, and even Gary St. Jean's son Greg was there with you guys, and you had a couple fun years at St. John's, I imagine.
Yeah, yes, yeah. We had a great time. We had the crew back together. We was running some pro sets. We were doing a lot of fun things. We had a good time.
That's awesome. Mitch, I can't thank you enough. Thanks so much. And I know, I'll be talking to Henry Turner about you coming up here pretty soon. I know that was the guy that used to.
Henry. I talked to Henry the other day. Me and Henry talk a lot. Yeah, we talk a lot.
He says he liked to push you a lot in practice.
Hey, listen, Henry, not in practice, but even in practice he pushed me. But when me and Henry used to have some really, really physical battles in the summertime. A lot of people don't know, like, everyone used to come to the Salvation Army way back when. And Henry was a star. Like, Henry was one of the guys that just used to fly through the air and thought he was unstoppable until he ran up against me. I stopped Henry. Henry, no. I locked Henry up. He knows it. Let him tell it. He knows it. He couldn't handle me. Henry
No.
couldn't handle me. No. That's my buddy. But no, Henry, I'm telling you, really, got me ready for each and every year because I mean, he didn't take no prisoners. He would go right at me, and I would go right at him. And it was not just him. It was at least 3 or 4 other guys that we used to battle each and every night, man, just getting prepared and getting ready for the season. And Henry was a big part of that.
I appreciate you, sir. I can't thank you enough, and hopefully next time we're doing this in person. Hopefully get done with this pandemic.
All right. You stay safe, and see you soon.
All right, Mitch. Take care. Thank you again.
All right.